Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting of the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission to order.
Commissioner Scarpetian?
Here.
Khan?
Here.
Patrick?
Here.
Sharkey?
Here.
President Rottfogel?
Here.
Item 1, roll call. Okay, did that. The agenda for the September 19, 2011 meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall on Tuesday, September 13, 2011. Item 2, Commission staff comments.
Okay. Rodney would like to go first.
You may.
I wanted to share with you that we had our Path Achieve Glendale, which is our old name. We had our Breaking News, which is our 5th year anniversary for it's the City of Glendale Homeless Facility. We had it at ABC 7 on September the 10th, and it was a very successful event for us. We had a little over 400 people that attended, and we raised about $358,000.
Wow.
So that's a record for us. It's more than each year we seem to kind of snowball a little bit. So we're very, very proud. It was a great event. It was a lot of fun. It was at the television broadcast facility, and we're hoping next year to kind of grow off of that. Our new name is Essentia, and it has to do with lifting people up out of homelessness, because we were part of the PATH Partners umbrella, and now we are separate and on our own for the City of Glendale, or I should say the greater Glendale area. Anyway, so we're very proud of that, and I wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, I would also like to share with commissioners and the public the 7th annual Glendale Kiwanis Incredible Duck Splash, which is coming up on Saturday, October 15th. This is a project that has a lot of partners in the community, including the City of Glendale. It raises money for all kinds of programs, including some city programs like programs for the library. And you can adopt ducks at www.ducks4kids.org, and on the day of the event, come out. We actually built a lake in Verdugo Park, so it's quite exciting. It's quite the lake, and have some duck races, and there's games and food, and this year we're sharing it with the canine program, so there should be a lot to do in Verdugo Park that day, so I hope you'll all join us.
Yeah, it's always a great event. Patty?
I have nothing, thanks.
Well, I don't have much to say except we are back from a long vacation. It's great to be back home and ready to go back to work, basically, and get to normal life. I want to congratulate Mr. Khan and Path Achieve for great achievements, and it's amazing what you've done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I also want to add my congratulations. It was a great event, and everybody, I know Laurel was there. I'm not sure if anybody else was. But, well, there were obviously about 400 other people there. But it was a great event, a lot of fun. The music was great. The venue was fabulous. The food, everything. You guys did an #1 job, and you should be congratulated.
Thank you.
Staff comments? Okay.
Item 3 is oral communications. I don't have any speaker cards.
Nor do I.
Item 4, consent items. 4A, approval of the minutes of the Commission regular meeting held on August 15, 2011.
Okay, and I know there were some corrections, so we'll be approving it as corrected. Thanks to Commissioner Patrick. Would you like to move them?
Move approval as corrected.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Scarpetian?
Abstain. I wasn't here.
Khan?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Sharkey?
Abstain, I left early.
President Rottfogel?
Yes.
Item 5, business agenda. 5A, action items. 5A1, Pacific Community Pool, request for direction for off-season operation. At A, motion directing staff to close the Pacific Community Pool to the general public during the aquatics program off-season, and to winterize it with a pool cover and perform minimal maintenance, or make it available for private rental pending a minimum cumulative rental time from all groups of 20 hours per week. And at B, resolution amending the CSP consolidated fee schedule by modifying the title of the existing fees for Pacific Community Pool and by establishing fees for the rental of Pacific Community Pool during the off-season of the aquatics program. And recommending that the City Council of the City of Glendale incorporate into the comprehensive citywide fee schedule the title modification and the new fees related to off-season use of the Pacific Community Pool.
All in one breath. Very good.
President Rob Fogel and Commissioners, I'm Joanne Vendito. I'm the Acting Recreation Administrator, and I'm presenting this report in the absence of Gabrielle Goglia, who is absent because she just had a baby girl.
Great.
Elisa Joe, 8 pounds, and very healthy, so we're very proud to announce that to everyone, if she likes it or not. Pacific Pool is going to be closed for the winter, but we would that's the plan, because that's what's in the budget, is to close down beginning October 1. We are staying open through September. The pool is open on the weekends only in September, and so we've moved our budget. We've stretched it as much as we possibly could so we can make the weekends open for everyone, for the public, and we have a lot of people taking advantage of recreation swim there. Now it's time to decide what we're going to do with October, so we're asking your direction on how we should proceed with our winter. We're respectfully requesting that you provide us direction regarding the operation of the pool. The motion that you have before you would direct staff to close the community pool to the general public beginning October 1, and we will close it through May 31st. It will be winterized, which means we put a pool cover on it. We cut down the amount of chemicals we use. The utilities are cut back, and we don't have any operation going on at all. If the commission provides direction to us to rent the pool during the off season, then we recommend that the commission take care of some fees that what we need to do is we need to recategorize the fees that are in the department's citywide fee report, and that is to say that those are the fees that are for the operation season of the pool, which is summer, and then to adopt a new set of fees, which is for the closed operation of the pool, when the pool is normally closed from October to May, and this way we can adopt a new set of fees and put it into the department-wide fee report. The new set of fees would be a rental rate of $250 an hour with a $200 security deposit. If you look at the comprehensive fee study, this is the normal rate of the pool. It's on page 13. It says Pacific Community Pool, number 1E. That's the in-season rate. That's the normal rate that we have for the pool. And we're asking you to recategorize that. That is the in-season rate. And then would we consider adopting a new rate for when the season is closed, during the closed season? There's a resolution that basically amends the citywide fee schedule, so you would be taking care of that in the citywide fee schedule, modifying the title of the existing fees, and then you'd be establishing new fees for rental during the off-season, which is the rate we're recommending. Basically, the pool was approved and budgeted by the Glendale City Council to operate from June through September for all types of activities. The pool is available for rentals during those non-operational hours. The Commission and the City Council requested that we research the possibility of renting the Pacific Community Pool in the off-season time, which is fall, winter, spring, to outside swim teams, different organizations, in order to keep the pool open year-round, and also to generate possible additional revenue for the city. Staff recommends that the pool be closed and winterized during the aquatics program off-season, which is October through May 31st. This allows us to stay within the budgeted allocation of the general fund that we have in place. The second option before you is to approve rental fees of $250 an hour with a minimum charge of $4,028 per week. This is the minimum necessary in order to operate the pool for a week. The estimated cost per hour is actually $204 per hour. But since the council and commission requested that we possibly generate some revenue by renting it out, we've added $46 to the estimate per hour, which makes it the $250 rate. In order to keep the pool open to the public, the pump's working, chemicals are increasing, utilities would be increased, and that adds to the cost of operating a pool, which was not in our budget. If the staff closes the pool for the winter months and we put that pool cover on, the chemicals and utilities are all decreased significantly. Based upon the consultant, the pool consultant, when the project of the pool was originally put together, the operating cost for utilities and chemicals was approximately $128,000 to operate the pool year-round. The city would need to generate $4,000 plus per week to meet the estimated costs. The rentals must be for a minimum 20 hours a week. The pool must be open a minimum 1 week in order for the cost to heat the pool and maintain the amount of chemicals. This has nothing to do with staffing. When you fluctuate going back, close, open, close, open, close, open, if someone just wanted to use the pool for 2 days a week or 3 days a week, you're bringing the pool up, you're bringing it back down, and that adds to the cost. It increases the cost significantly because of having to add more chemicals and then eventually bring it back down. Some of our unknown factors, the cost of the utilities has not yet been determined. We have not been able to get a utility bill for the summer, so we're not quite sure how the utility is going to play into it. We do know that the pool was well used this summer, and so we know that those costs would probably be significantly higher because we did use an inordinate amount of chemicals. But based on the consultant's estimate in the project, the estimate was low based on the amount of bathers in the pool itself. So we're not basing this on that overuse. We're basing it on the estimated cost to operate a normal pool facility of that size. All estimates for the pool have been based on his estimates. So again, it's a higher operation in the summer. We estimate it lower because a pool team would not generate hundreds of people in there per day. So, obstacles that require timely decisions, we have a couple of them. The company that we contracted with to service the pool would have to service the pool 3 times a week rather than once a week. So if we start to open up for rentals rather than winterize, we're going to have to bring them on board, which is going to increase our contract cost to that company. The part-time staff need to be separated right now. That's what we normally do. All seasonal staff in our summer programs are all separated in the month of September, and we would actually need to leave some people on board in order to possibly staff the rentals that might occur during the year, which is possible, but we just need to know what to do with the staff in September. If we don't have sufficient staff on duty, the number of rental days available will depend on when staff is available. We have a lot of college students and high school students on our lifeguard program. Therefore, it depends on when they could or could not work. A point of information: we always give you a benchmark study, and that's listed on page 5 of the report. But we felt this one was significant. The City of La Mirada operates a year-round pool and has reported that they recoup only 40% of the actual cost to operate. The city provides general fund money in order to keep the pool open on a regular basis. So, based on the benchmark study, if you take a look, Burbank is closed, Pasadena is closed, and Anaheim is closed. They only are open for the summer. They all winterize in September. Carson is only open for rentals is open only for rentals during winter, and 60% of that cost is paid for by the city, so it's subsidized in order to give a lower rental rate to the groups that use it. Theirs is $121 per hour plus their lifeguards, and it's subsidized. Chula Vista, open year-round. The dollars were unavailable, but the pool is definitely subsidized by the general fund of that city, and the same with Culver City. So, as in checking around, this is how the operation is. The majority of the Los Angeles City pools are closed. They winterize, they drain the pools. We choose not to drain the pool because the cost to bring it back up we've talked to you about this before, the cost to bring it back up is tremendous in replastering and fixing cracks and any type of graffiti that might get in that pool. So, Let's see. Fiscal impact, we have a cost for you to winterize the pool, which we should spend approximately $31,000 in the winter, and we've estimated that in our budget, and we're fine. If the pool is rented a minimum of 20 hours a week and is open from October through May, each week it's opened, we need $128,000 to operate. At that point, we have to put someone on duty, and we have our pool maintenance. Someone is always at the pool. I shouldn't say that. Courtney Maglio, our aquatics director, who's here. Courtney's there all the time, so that's a staff person who's not even factored into this. What we have to do is put a maintenance person on, and we have to put someone on to that deals with the chemicals when our maintenance contract with SeaClear is not, they don't come to service us. We come 3 times during that week. When they're not there, someone still has to take a look every single day at those pumps, et cetera. Courtney can do minimal work, but she's not trained as a pool technician, so therefore we would have to put someone on board in order to take care of that. These are all minimal hours, however. Let's see. Basically, the background, this is our first summer of opening up the pool, and we all know that it was received tremendously by the public. They enjoyed themselves. We were overused for the summer, but that's okay because everyone had a great time. In looking at the other cities, we're finding that they are shutting down their pools for the winter, which is the norm, and it has to reflect basically the budget and the economics of operating pools. So with this, we ask you for direction on how would you like us to proceed. If you'd like some specifics regarding the fluctuation of the chemicals or the use of the pumps, we have one of the consultants with us from SeaClear, which is the contract group that we work with, and he can provide some information for you. Courtney Magley was also here in case you would like some information regarding the pool. I will tell you we are bringing a complete aquatics report with the wading pools and the pools themselves, Hoover and the Pacific Pool, next month in our October Commission meeting. Thank you.
Can I ask one quick question? Have you had any requests from the public about renting the pool during the winter?
There have been a couple that we understand. I don't know if Courtney's received them directly, but we have received a couple requests that people are interested in renting the pool.
And do you have any idea how many hours a week they would want to rent the pool?
No. No, they haven't contacted us directly so that we would have those number of hours.
Okay, so these aren't teams that would want to.
They're club. There's two club teams that, from what we've heard, but they haven't given us specifics as to what they would like to use or how often they would like to use it. If groups can manage to, if groups are able to open the pool for 20 hours for the week, we can open up. If a group, we gave you a couple examples, if a group wants to only come 3 days a week for 2 hours, that's six hours. That would mean we're bringing the pool up and down again, which means the increase in the chemicals and the utilities.
So in order to break even, the pool would have to be rented 20 hours a week every week between September and the end of May.
Correct. No, not every week, just during a week. We could bring it up, we could bring it down. If we are going to be able to rent, then we would keep staff on, which means then based on when staff is available, we can then provide the opportunity for groups to rent.
Okay, so you could do this a week at a time?
Yes, we could do it a week at a time.
It would have to be 20 hours during the week, and that would break even. It would not make money.
Correct.
Thank you.
Now, when you say break even, does that include the extra staff time, the extra time that Courtney and other people would have to take part? Is that covering everything?
Yes, that's covering everything. Courtney's not included in this factor. It's bringing in the pool tech. It's asking SeaClear to come and take care of the pool during the week, and we're going to bring our maintenance gentlemen on longer hours in order to make sure we take care of the pumps and the chemicals and backwash the pool more.
But those longer hours are included in this minimum 20 hours a week?
Right. Right. It's an average of the time frame between October and May, and we don't have a fee in place, so if we were going to rent, we would need to put a fee in place.
Hi, John.
So if you want to winterize it and do nothing, we have the budget for it already.
Yes, we're
We don't have to
budgeted.
do anything because with
Right.
current budget and subsidizing more, I think we're going to have a hard time. And I echo Commissioner Patrick's opinion that if we want to make a recommendation or a direction, we need to know if there's a demand for it or not. Overall, I think we need to do maybe a little bit of research to see if there is a demand for it, then we can talk about recommendation or give a direction as to rent it and then find out what our challenges are and work on them. What is the cost of operation? I know you don't have the utilities rate yet, but the summertime, that was the high use time, or what was the cost of operation for 1 month, for example?
I'd have to get that. That would probably be coming in our aquatics report that's in October.
Okay. And the cost that is $128,000 is from October to May, am I correct?
Correct.
And this is if we use that 20 hours a week? If you use it for...
20 hours a week, but we can operate 1 week at a time.
Right. So if you have the demand 20 hours a week, we can operate it and rent it out.
Right.
But public cannot use it because the cost will go up.
Correct.
Okay. And what is our maintenance fee? What are we paying to our contractor for maintaining just the maintenance, the chemical and the maintenance fee that we pay during the high peak hours?
Yeah, it's fluctuated based on the estimate of the project consultant originally. We had a firm come in, and they were not coming in enough based on the load that we had. So we have worked with Clear, and they've given us the opportunity to get our water under control, so to speak, and they've been coming out regularly in order to help us. Quite often on their own, when we need them, they come out and they help us out.
But
We just
don't know-
found that the bather load was much more, and the chemicals and the pumps were really working overtime,
Right.
and therefore we needed some extra tech help.
I think if you're going to open it to open the pool during the winter time, I think we need to look into the option. If public wants to use it, what is it going to be our cost? And if you have to go get subsidy for it or budget it in, maybe we have to look at that option as well. So if it's being used 5 hours a day for 4 days, that makes it 20 hours a week. Maybe the rest of that 5 hours in the same day, public can use the rest of that 5 hours because the pool is out there already, it's heated up, and the chemical is in there, it's open. So I think we need to look at that option as well.
Because we have factored in the extra money, we factored in $46 per the hour. That money may be there in order to operate,
Okay.
and therefore then we would be definitely operating. That's it, because that money would go toward putting a lifeguard on duty, and it would go toward the extra chemicals that we would need. We just would have to be careful of how much we open that up and how many are actually using it, because we certainly would not have the money to overload based on what happened to us during the summer. We used much more than we needed in chemicals and service to the pool.
Okay.
And if we did want to open it up, after the teams or whoever was renting it, we wouldn't be able to schedule that because we wouldn't know from week to week, correct?
Correct. We would have to know, right. We could only open it based on if someone was renting it that week. So we couldn't be open regularly unless we knew in advance that we have a rental permit for a certain time frame.
Right.
First, thank you for all your work you put into this, and I'm glad we could open the pool 1 more month, but there's too much uncertainty here. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold. There's too much uncertainty here, and we have no money. It's not there. So I'm just real uncomfortable with it. Plus, all the other cities close their pool and don't even have rentals, and the one that is open has general fund money support, and we don't have that. Is that what I'm hearing? So I'm just real uncomfortable at this point.
Yeah,
It's too much uncertainty.
I for one agree, and I would rather be maybe in, August or September next year, come back to us with a report of those people that said that they would have been interested this coming winter, or if there's such a demand mid-year, midwinter, then maybe we relook at it. But I'm with you. I think that
Too much.
there's just too much, and it's not like we're opening it, would be able to open it up for the kids in the neighborhood or anything else like that without really knowing. So that's the way I'm leaning also. Is there a motion? Or are we, any more
Mr. Khan,
questions?
I believe.
I had a couple comments too. I agree with you guys. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I'm thinking about my own pool and how we use it, and we close it down over the, when it's the winter months and whatnot. If someone had come forward and said there was a huge demand, maybe that's a different story. But so far, just for a couple people to say maybe a few hours, that doesn't really cut it.
Maybe.
And that's a maybe. Yeah, exactly. But I agree in terms of if you do hear back and you do have people that are coming and demanding to use the pool, to come back. I mean, I wouldn't even wait till if you hear after this hearing in a month or two, just come back and let us know, because then we'll have something to talk about.
Right
now, we really don't.
I'm sorry, Rob.
That's okay.
If we had commitments, where yes, they're going to do it, and yes, they're going to do it for 6 weeks, or,
Yeah, and I think I would want it for more than just somebody to come to us, more than just to say, I want a week or two, but I would want a longer term commitment than just a week. But anyway, we take your time.
That's okay. In terms of different organizations, and I don't know when swim season is, so I don't know if the schools, do we know when?
Year-round.
It is year-round.
Clubs will go year-round. The schools, you have water polo and you have your swim teams, and they're practicing all the way through. The kids have to stay, ready to go. They're athletes on teams, and they have to be constantly swimming.
So I don't know if that who our market is, or who is our market in terms of using this pool when in the off-peak hours. I really don't know.
Right.
I'd be interested in knowing. Also, and I don't know if this dollar figure considers the wear and tear on the facilities, because as you've mentioned, there's a lot of use. We have this pool for a purpose, right? And there was a lot of use this summer, and I don't know, as we open and close it and open and close it, if that wears things out quicker, and then we have to replace that. Does that get factored in with this fee?
Right. That's the wear and tear on the pumps, the wear and tear on all the machinery that's there, the motors. The motors significantly would wear out. So yes, it would, and that's not figured in here. That's wear and tear on the actual equipment.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Like me to move?
somebody who can speak.
I move that Parks, Recreation, and Community Service Commission direct staff to close the Pacific Community Pool to the general public during the aquatics program off-season, and to winterize it with a pool cover and perform minimal maintenance.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Scarpetian?
Yes.
Han?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Sharkey?
Yes.
President Rottfogel?
Yes. And what is next?
Item 5A2, resolution establishing registration fees for the Verdugo Mountain 10K Trail Run and Hike, and recommending that the Glendale City Council incorporate the fees into the comprehensive citywide fee schedule.
Mr. Sturdivant.
Thank you, Mr. Rottfogel. President Rottfogel, members of the Commission, I'm Mark Sturdivant, Senior Analyst for the Community Services and Parks Department. And as most of you know, I believe, the inaugural Verdugo Mountains 10K Trail Run and Hike was held last May in Brand Park. It was a collaboration between the department and the Glendale Parks and Open Space Foundation, and by all measures, it was a resounding success. We had over 500 runners and hikers tackling the 6.2-mile course that ran from the bottom of Brand Park up to the top of the Verdugo Mountains and back. Proceeds went to benefit the Parks and Open Space Foundation, which has been systematically donating funds as needed back to the department for programs such as the Senior Services Program, for Club Maple, and for funding 3 GYA workers this summer who worked in our parks. Because of the way that the financial aspects of the race are going to be structured this year, Mr. Duran felt it was appropriate for us to bring the registration fees before the Commission for approval. And the fees that you have before you are $30 for a registration in January or February of next year, moving up to $35 for March and April, and $40 on race day. And because these fees are the same as last year and are consistent with other similar trail runs in Southern California, we recommend that you approve the fees as set down in the report. And with that, I would answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? I just, now the money is still going to go to the foundation, correct?
The financial structure is a little bit different this year. This year, the proceeds from registration are going to go to the department, but the foundation is going to be tasked with going out and raising sponsorships, and those sponsorships go directly to the foundation. The foundation will then in turn donate as they see fit back to the department for the programs that meet the foundation's mission.
Okay, that explains why it needs to come here. Are there any other questions?
And will that money then go into the Parks Enterprise Fund? Where will that money end up?
The registration fees.
If the proceeds from registration exceed the costs of the race, which we think they will, then yes, that will go into the Enterprise Fund.
Okay. Is there a motion?
That the Department of Parks, Recreation and Community Services Commission approve the resolution establishing registration fees for the Verdugo Mountains Take-A Trail Run and Hike as presented in Exhibit 1, and recommended that the Glendale City Council incorporate the fees into the comprehensive citywide fee schedule.
Is there a second? It's going to die for lack of second, folks.
I'll second it.
All right. Could we have a roll call?
I'm delighted we're going to be doing this again. It was such a fun event, and
really
hold on tight. I think it's going to be bigger next year.
I think it is too.
All right.
Commissioner Scarpetian?
Yes.
Khan?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Sharkey?
Yes.
President Rottfogel?
Yes. And
Thank you.
Thank you. What is next?
Item 5B, reports for information only. At 1, Rose Float update.
Ross, I'll do an introduction and you can.
You can stay there.
As President Rottfogel, we wanted to give you an update on the status of the Rose Float. There's been a lot of discussion about the Rose Float. We have gone to City Council twice since the last Parks Commission meeting. So we did go on August 23rd, and we requested that the City Council approve the design of the 2012 Rose Float and to authorize the city manager to execute the contract for the construction of the float with Phoenix Design Company Incorporated. At that time, we were happy to report that the city had received over $98,000 in contributions from the community. Of course, our target was $50,000, so we are far in excess of that. We also used the opportunity to discuss the status of the Glendale Rose Float Association and what might be their continued role in terms of supporting and sponsoring or being the official sponsoring entity of the Glendale Rose Float. We also provided the City Council with recommendations on how to reduce staff's involvement and staff's time in coordinating and supporting the Rose Float in order to reduce the city's cost, assuming that we would be entering a Rose Float. And the City Council did approve those recommendations, so the staff role will be much more minimized than it had been traditionally. But we will continue to ensure that we have the best quality float we could possibly afford in the parade, and so that remains our department's responsibility. The City Council did direct us to return to the City Council with recommendations on fundraising, how to conduct fundraising for the future floats, some alternatives on the role of the Glendale Rose Float Association and/or another entity to be responsible for fundraising and supporting the Rose Float, and also some options or recommendations for the process by which we select the design of the Rose Float. As if you were following the council reports, there was a lot of discussion about how we ended up with the design that we did and the controversy by some segments of the community. So we will be back to the council with a report on some thoughts related to that. And then 2 weeks later, on September 6th, the City Council asked to revisit the status of the Rose Float, and in particular, the Rose Float theme and the name and the design. The council received a presentation from the float builder himself, and it was essentially reaffirmed that it would be too late to change the design, and probably the only thing we might be able to tweak was the name of the Rose Float. And so the City Council directed staff to reach out to the community, to make an announcement on the city's webpage, to announce that we were receiving suggestions for new names for the Rose Float. That filing period ended last Friday. We did receive 24 suggestions, which I won't disclose now, but we will be recommending one name to the city manager's office and city council as a new submittal to the Pasadena Rose Float Association. So that's the status of the Rose Float. Again, we will be going back in 2 or 3 weeks with a further discussion of some of these outstanding items that the council wants to discuss further. And so for now, that's where it stands.
Just what was the name? You said it was. We're looking at renaming it. What was the name that it started off with?
Stepping Out in Style.
Stepping Out in Style.
Yeah.
Okay. So how you'll go through this list that you have of 24 and try to come up with the best one out of the 24?
Yes, President Ralph-Fogel, commissioners. I think part of the issue was the political implications of the elephant and it being a circus elephant and the documented abuse of circus elephants. And so one notion was that maybe there was a way to use a name that is sensitive to that and to the plight of the elephants. But we do need to be careful that it's not so political that it wouldn't have a chance of being approved by the Pasadena Rose Float Association, because there is, in essence, we are requesting a waiver and a change to what's already been approved, and so the Pasadena Rose Float Association doesn't have to even consider a change to the name or anything related to the float. So we will be making a special appeal, and so we're hoping to be able to provide a name that would come across as plausible, because of course they have their own reputation to be concerned about. So that's what we're doing, and that's the status of the Rose Float.
Thank you.
You mentioned that there was some emails and things from members of the general community. Do we know how many, or do we have any way of knowing how many members of that community were actually people that lived in Glendale versus the mass emails from around the country that were generated by PETA?
I wouldn't know, President Ralph-Fogel.
Okay. Any other questions, or do you have anything to add? Or all right. What is next?
Item 5B2, Annual Report of Youth and Family Services.
Mr. Alvarez.
Good afternoon, President Ralph-Fogel, members of Commission, Department staff. My name is Walter Alvarez. I'm the Community Services Supervisor for the Youth and Family Services Program, and I'm here to give a yearly update on the program. The Youth and Family Services Program has been servicing the community for 10 years now. This past fiscal year marked the 10th year anniversary of the program. And the program's been doing a lot of great stuff for our youth, our families, and the community. This past year, we outreached to 152 unduplicated youth and families. Out of those unduplicated youth and families, we were able to generate 331 referrals. Out of those, they vary. Most of the referrals this year tend to be related to employment needs, volunteer opportunities. People are out there struggling in the market looking for those referrals. So we've done some of the legwork on that area, refer them to GYA, employment bulletin announcements, anything that could get them a leg up to secure some employment this year. Of the 152, 46% of those referrals, of those families contacted successfully, were linked with services or utilized the services to some degree. So we do have some success in that area. We also provide case management services to a lot of the youth. Most of the youth who qualify for the case management services tend to be those youth who are involved with probation. Somehow they're linked to probation, or they've gone and they violated something, they've gone in arrests, and they've either joined, they don't formally have probation, but may have just informal probation, meaning a joint program with probation department. So we work a lot with those youth, just trying to get them away, because it tends to be just a slap in the hand. And the district attorney may just order them to comply with either having to do volunteer work in the community, or having to do therapy or counseling or anger management classes. So that's where we step in, because the probation department doesn't really make the effort, and we work with them at that point to try to link them with those services. Along with that, they also have fines that they have to pay. So what we've done, it's not customary that they do this, but if they work with us, our staff will talk to the DA, and they'll try to negotiate lower fees that they get fined with. Maybe I was doing the math just as I came up here, and I was thinking just this past year we were able to waive about $1,600 in fees for some of these families, meaning that we'll just work out with the DA and say, if they comply this in this specific amount of time, can you reduce fees? And again, that's something that the parents don't know that they have the option to negotiate with the DA with, and our staff has gotten that opportunity to learn that. Again, 29 youth received case management. 15 of those, 52% complied and completed. They're successfully complied with all their orders. 52% is an achievement when we're talking with at-risk youth. We're talking about kids who come from low-income families, single-parent households, and have various factors just to deal with. So anytime we have that success, above 50%, we're proud of it. We change one, we change many along the way. Also, with that, we also do information and referrals. We also host informational workshops for youth. This past year, we hosted, I believe, 5 workshops. They included a mountain bike ride, safety riding workshop, teen entrepreneur babysitting training. That's with the American Red Cross, just teaching kids that they can maybe get certified in CPR and babysitting training and go market themselves on the community to avail their services. The other one was vocational career and GED preparation. Teen job readiness training. This was right around the period of GYA and enrollment, just introducing them to the process and making sure they have all their paperwork in place so they can enroll into GYA. And don't let your summer be a bummer. We understood that a lot of the summer schools weren't available, so we wanted to inform the parents of all the summer activities that would be available in the community. So we opened the doors to the parents to come out and learn about the services that were going to be available over the summer, so that way their kids aren't at home bored and having idle minds, trouble minds at times. The other achievement we made this year, we established collaborations with with Asian Youth Center, GUSD, and our program. We were able to host parenting classes at no cost through a curriculum called Parent Project. Teaches tough love for these kids. parents are taught skills to deal with their teens' issues through a tough love method. And this year we successfully graduated 34 parents from the program. And that, again, that was no cost to us because GUSD, through their grant, provided the trainers as well as the Asian Youth Center. The San Gabriel Valley-based agency came out here, brought food as well for the parents for the meetings, so it was no cost to us. We just kind of made the services available, the facility available during those evening hours. Another success was Operation Read. Again, that was through a collaboration with Probation, the Asian Youth Center, and we graduated 7 youth in this program. Operation Read's goal is to increase the kids' reading levels by 2 grade points, by 2 levels. Kids are tested. There's a pre-test and there's a post-test to see, and that's how they graduate in the program. They have to comply and increase their reading level by 2 grades. So we did successfully complete 3 kids in the program this past year. And along the way, we also did our nonprofit capacity building workshops. We hosted 5 this year. 5 of those workshops, again, just to help the nonprofit build capacity within their agencies. And that was through collaboration with VNR, Valley Nonprofit Resources, the Center for Nonprofit Management, and as well as the Flint Ridge Center. And we averaged a total of 15 representatives from 21 different agencies that attended these trainings. And again, some were at cost to us. We kind of brought in the trainers, but there was a few that were at no cost, where we just kind of made their services available again. And I think that pretty much covers my update here, if there's any other questions.
Yes, go ahead.
I was looking at the program outcomes, and specifically for fiscal year 2009, 2010, and then comparing it with 2010, 2011. And I saw how the first bullet point, it's fairly close. There's 168 unduplicated youth and parents. Last year, 364 social services. This year is 152 with 331. But it was really the next bullet point. Of these referrals, 2009, 2010, it was 80% resulted in positive follow-through by the family, where this shows only 46% resulted in positive follow-through. Why the big drop-off? Why the big change?
The reduction in services in the nonprofit sectors. For example, New Horizons would be an example of that, where it was an agency that was highly utilized by the community, and when we lost an agency such as that, we lost the reduction in being able to for families to use those services, and that goes across the board for a lot of agencies who had level reduction. So if an agency were providing a particular service, that service was eliminated, then that impacted our numbers as well. Thus, that's why we focus on the capacity building of nonprofits. We said where we get impacted, they get impacted, and the community as a whole gets impacted. So we kind of took it upon ourselves to say we need to help them out, because that's what we saw the reduction. A lot of times it was just a matter of referring them, and the service wasn't available. We found out after the fact that the nonprofits would say that we don't offer this anymore. But we still count it as a referral generated.
Any other questions?
Yes. Explain to me one more time, please. The section that you indicated, you negotiate with DA to reduce the fines or the fees. What are those fines and fees for again?
For example, if a kid gets violated for tobacco possession, they may have a $350 fee with that ticket. So if we work with the DA, because this is just a slap in the hand, they don't want to put, this kid may be an excellent student, good standing in the community, volunteers, has reference letters, but at the same time, he still has this $350 attached to him at the end of the court date. But if we work with the DA and we tell him he's going to complete his 50 hours of community service, above that, he may volunteer in a citywide event, and he may do above and beyond. If that's the case, if he completes it in this time frame, can we waive those fees? And we have gotten some of those fees waived, where if it's a cigarette tobacco possession, maybe $350.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And who issues those tickets?
Who issues those tickets?
How do they find out that the kid has tobacco in his possession? And
who
gives them the tickets?
They get arrested by Glendale PD. Either an arrest or not necessarily an arrest, but a citation for possession. if they're on the street
having
or
a cigarette.
if they're in the community. But most of those cases go to the Pasadena Juvenile Court, who handles and who files.
Okay.
So I don't know who picks up the bill at the end of the day. For
Right. And how many? We have 3 staff members. As I was reading through the report, we have our budget is about $310,000. Am I correct?
Correct.
And we have 3 staff members that handle all the.
We have myself comes out of that budget,
Right.
a supervisor. There's a full-time coordinator.
Right.
We had a vacant community services specialist that was accounted in here but never filled throughout the year.
Okay.
And we also have a CDBG funded position.
Right.
Within those 16,000 comes out of that 380.
Got it. And last year, how many kids or their families went through this program altogether? A rough number, if you will.
It's the duplicated count of last year, which is 168.
160.
Last year.
3 people.
Right.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I missed this, don't you go down to the courts to see who's in Glendale? Is that
Yes.
how you find these kids?
That's how we outreach.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
that's how
an
you
important
out-
point. Yes, and we have a very, very good collaboration with the Pasadena Juvenile Court. The judges will let us sit in chambers, and even if we're not there, it was used as an educational tool more than anything for our staff as we get introduced to the program. They understand the process, so it gives them the opportunity to go there, sit maybe one Wednesday from let's say 8 to 12, and just understand the whole process of the juvenile justice system. Once we're not there, the judges have our pamphlets, they have our business cards, so any Glendale kid gets automatically referred to us as well, to the court, to the judge.
It's one of my favorite programs,
Oh, thank
the
you.
city programs, because it gives these kids, not only shows you care, but a second chance on a good life. So, and you do it with such a passion, too. So-
Thank you, Ms. Sharkey.
I just want to say that I had the opportunity to attend 2 of these workshops for the nonprofits, and what great workshops, and what a good opportunity for nonprofits throughout the city to get some training that they probably would not be able to afford on their own. So these are great workshops, and that's a great service to the community also, so thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And the new office working out nicely for you?
It is working excellent. Yes, lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, thank
Anything
you.
else? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next is
Item 5B3, monthly activity reports at A, workforce development.
Good afternoon, President Rockvogel and Commissioners. My name is Don Nakamoto. I'm the Administrator over Workforce Development. We had a busy week last week. First thing I wanted to talk about is that we got a grant from the state of California for $400,000 to train people for electronic medical records, that field. We have 3 major hospitals in Glendale. The hospitals are in the process of converting their medical records to electronic, but we're focusing on the doctor's offices, and there are over 1,000 doctors in Glendale, Burbank. This is an interesting grant because it originates from the federal government, and it's called on-the-job training. So an employer would actually hire somebody, and they would provide the training on the job, and we would use the funding to help subsidize the salaries of the people that are hired. And ordinarily, we'd subsidize about 50% maximum of those salaries, but through this grant, we're looking at it as a potential incentive to create jobs. And so the federal government has authorized that up to 90% of a person's salary that's being trained could be subsidized up to 6 months. So we look at this as an excellent program to spur local job creation in this field. Another issue that came up that I've spoken about in the past is a Senate bill, Senate Bill 776 that we were fighting. It was developed by the state labor unions to try and access workforce funding, primarily targeted toward the union apprenticeship programs. And we've been fighting this bill because it would really take away from the services that are offered locally. We still get about 6,000 to 7,000 people that are unemployed visiting our Verdugo Job Center every month. And so there's still a tremendous need. I think you saw in the report that our unemployment rate in Glendale, I think it just came out yesterday, so this isn't the latest figure. I think it went up, actually. But it was about 11.6%. So there's still a significant portion of the Glendale population that's unemployed. If you look at the people that are working in part-time positions, temp positions, positions that they're just looking at as something to get by temporarily, in other words, they're underemployed, that rate is probably closer to 16 to 17%. So by the unions coming in to try and take some of our funding that would cut services to those people, we've been fighting that pretty vigorously for the last 3 or 4 months. We were successful in killing that bill in the Assembly Appropriations Committee because some research found that that bill would cost the state budget about $10 million per year based on additional unemployment benefits that would have to be paid to trainees. But the unions utilized a technique called gut and amend to take the bill that was killed, attach it to another Senate bill, and that was fast-tracked through the state legislature. It's now sitting on the governor's desk, and he has to make a decision whether to veto or approve that bill. We were able, through one of our board members, to get basically the state education system to recommend a veto on that. And so we're hopeful about getting a veto from the governor. However, to counteract some of our activities, I think Mayor Villaraigosa, at the urging of the unions, contacted the governor and is urging that he not veto the measure. So that's basically where it stands. There's about, I think, 2 to 3 weeks left that the governor needs to make a decision about this bill, and we'll keep you updated about what happens. Finally, as I said, it was a busy week last week. At the Glendale College trustees meeting, the trustees tried to surprise me, and they weren't successful, but they almost did. They gave me an award, actually, a resolution to acknowledge the partnership between our organization and the college, and we've actually launched a lot of joint projects together and brought in some significant funding to the college. So they wanted to acknowledge that, and they definitely surprised me because the State Assembly also gave an award. In the past 15 years or so, we brought in about 20 to 25 $1 million of special grant, competitive grant funding to help the unemployed people in the community. So thank you to Assemblyman Mike Gatto for acknowledging that. And then also the state Senate came up with a really nice award for us. So thank you to them and Senator Carol Liu for putting that together. Also, Congressman Adam Schiff had an award and for us, and I forgot that at the office. But anyway, thank you to the congressman as well.
Great. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Great.
Any questions?
You're not getting ready to retire, are you? Is that why they give you all these awards?
It's funny you mentioned that because they were trying to surprise me, and at the trustees meeting, I told the trustees that this is kind of shocking because usually you see these kind of awards when you retire.
Sure.
And so I don't know if people thought I was going to retire or something, but I hadn't thought about that too much. But thank you.
Good. Anything else?
Yeah, I had one question from your report you didn't talk about, was the that you're considering moving the job center location because the lease is coming up in a year or so?
Right. That lease expires in about a year and a half, I think the end of January 2013. Initially, we were looking at the civic auditorium, but there's a significant cost for renovating that, and there are issues with the parking availability. The first priority would probably be to try and locate a city facility, but because we have such a huge volume of customers, we'd have to find a location that had enough parking. And we'd like to stay in kind of the south Glendale area or the eastern Burbank area. And finding a facility, our current facility is 24,000 square feet with 150 parking spaces. We've talked to a number of different brokers, and that type of space is really limited in that area. We do have a possibility on the Glendale-Burbank border that's 18,000 square feet, has 90 parking spaces, and the square foot cost is significantly less.
Is it?
And so we're trying to see if we can work something out there.
Great. Thanks.
I have a question. The Senate bill, that 776, that's going to take funds away from every city?
Yes, there
Okay.
are 49 workforce organizations in the state. We're one of the 49. And so the intent is to take money from each of those organizations. Right now, the figure is 35% of the formula funding that we get from the state, and that would have to be dedicated toward training. The unions have a companion bill that would allow that funding to go into their union apprenticeship programs. The problem that we have with that is most of those apprenticeship programs are construction related, and right now there's about a 40% unemployment rate in the construction industry. And to be taking our funding and dedicating it into an area that we're going to basically be training people for no jobs that are available after their apprenticeship is over, it's not a good idea. It would be a waste of resources that could be helping people that really need jobs locally.
Yeah, because I was surprised if it's going to take funds away from every city. I was surprised that Mayor Villaraigosa is pushing for the governor not to veto it. That was interesting because if it's going to affect city of LA as well. So
yeah. The mayor has pretty close ties to the labor unions in the city of LA, and they feel really strongly that they need this funding to continue their apprenticeship programs and to put people into apprenticeship opportunities. So that's where the fight is happening. A lot of the cities in the state are opposing this legislation. Also, as I mentioned, the education system and a lot of other organizations like Chambers of Commerce are also opposing this, so we'll see how it plays out.
okay.
Any other questions? What is next?
Item 5B, 3B, Park Services.
Oh,
Commissioner,
Gary.
President Rothfull, Commissioners, my name is Gary Morello. I'm the Park Services Administrator. And July brought the full brunt of park patronage to bear, starting with the picnics, the reservations, the trash, the litter, the pickups that were required. So basically what we did most of the month was just try to keep ahead of the game and keep the parks clean and useful for the people. We did do some work on the landscaping, which was the ball field renovations starting in July. We usually do them in August and September, but we start measuring out what needs to be removed and thrown away and redone for August and September so the new season can start back in October. Sprinkler work was high on the priority list, as well as the building repairman doing 136 work orders for repairs and replacements of things that were broken or damaged or overused or wiped out. Next month I will be giving you a sheet of paper that will have a new parks maintenance program, so to speak, embarking on a little bit different way of doing things in the parks. And my director knows about it. He's already looked at that. And I believe Mr. Starbird also knows about that. And we're just changing how we're doing work now. There used to be every park had somebody in it. That's no longer the case. So next month when I there'll be a report in your packets about what I've done and how we're changing what we're doing and the frequencies we're doing it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Other than that, that's it. Yes.
This is a little bit off of it, but the Wood Bat League, that whole league, I'm assuming that's over now.
Correct.
Okay, and then how did that, what are the conclusions from that? Was that good? Was it bad?
We are going to have a brief report for you in the November report, but all in all, it was very successful from the league's point of view. The California Baseball League, it's one of the best leagues in the country, as we reported, and they were very happy with everything. The All-Star Game was held in July, and that was very successful. Glendale got some very good coverage. That was a nationally televised event, and it's on periodically, and I can't remember the station, and so I won't say it because I believe it was Fox. Fox, thank you. We were dealing with Fox. So Fox was there, and our Economic Development Department was providing them information about the city of Glendale. So we got some excellent marketing, and we got some wonderful coverage, and everybody knows it's the city of Glendale, California, not the other one.
There's another one? Any other questions? Great report, Gary. Thank you.
Anytime.
What is next?
5B3C, Recreation and Community Services.
I have no report unless you have questions in the report that we do have. It's basic statistics. If you remember, our Movies, Music, and More was a program that was canceled, but one of the items left was Shakespeare in the Park. We were able to have one Shakespeare in the Park event, thanks to the funding by Shakespeare by the Sea, which we provided the park, and they provided the event, and over 300 people attended. So obviously, Shakespeare is extremely popular in Glendale.
Okay, any questions? All right, thank you very much. And what is next?
Item 5B3D, CIP projects.
Good afternoon. George Balteria, Senior Project Manager, to bring you up to date on just a couple highlights of items that we have engaged in last month. If you take a look at the page 3 of our report, we did highlight the public art mural and the solar dance of colors and the trees of life that were installed very successfully over at Maple Park at the new portion of the community center. And if you haven't had a chance to take a look at them, they really are cool looking. They really make that wall and that whole lobby area pop, you know, and it's looking really good. And the kids come into the lobby and they just stand there and look at it and watch all the lights twinkling, you know, just all by solar. It's pretty cool. So if you can take a look at it, it's pretty neat. At the Adult Recreation Center, we have been engaged in the Phase 2 improvements at the park. So essentially the Central Park portion, landscaping that, and grading operations and utilities and so on are going in right now. So it looks quite different from a couple weeks ago. And so you'll see a much improved condition there very shortly. Just being clean and clear, and some of the street improvements that we're dealing with, some of this around the perimeter, are going to make that whole area look quite different and very, very good. Once the grass is up and so on, then obviously it'll be very, very functional. So it will change very shortly. If you haven't had an opportunity to take a look at the Riverwalk project, it is changing every week, and the Northeast Trees is progressing pretty well. They're putting a lot of effort into that project with us, and you can definitely see everything coming together. So more than just the arenas that we have there, and you can actually see the future parking area fairly well now. and the new access that will be provided from the trailhead. So it's looking very good.
When do we think that might open?
I believe that we're going to be opening after the first of the year, sometime in, I believe, March.
Great.
And the playground, just of noteworthiness, is the playground replacement for Glorietta Park. That was a structure that was torched and burned by some youth. And we have received, or we will be receiving, the playground structure. So all the components, replacement components, have been ordered. They'll be delivered to the sports complex, and then from there our contractor will take delivery and start assembling that work pretty fast. That should be in and completed before January. So those are some of our highlights.
Great.
If there's any other questions or anything I can answer?
Any questions?
I just urge anyone to go to Maple Park and see this artwork. It's incredible. It's well worth it. Yeah. So I just wanted to add that. I know you said that, but really proud of it.
Thank you.
Especially in that area, too. So.
And before we adjourn, I would be remiss and probably heavily fined if I didn't mention that last Saturday up at Duke Magian Park, my Rotary Club, 10 members of my Rotary Club had gone up there and helped with the work day up at the park and put up a couple of kiosks and did some watering and things like that. And so I forgot to mention that under Commissioner comments. And so,
are you Sunrise Rotary?
Yes, Glendale Sunrise.
Just make sure we get the...
Glendale Sunrise Rotary, and we meet every Friday morning up at Oakmont Country Club.
Okay. It's a great group. So.
I think so. All right. Anything else?
President Rothfogel, now I would be remiss if I didn't recap on a couple of things under staff comments, so I'll go back. A couple of other items that we went to the City Council with since our last Parks Commission meeting that the Parks Commission had had made some recommendations on. One was the potential renaming of Central Park to Memorial Park or Veterans Memorial Park. We did make a report. We did present your feedback, and the City Council decided to leave the name as Central Park. The second item was the potential of installing soccer fields at the ARC Phase 2 Park Improvement site. And again, after some discussion, the City Council decided or agreed with the majority of the Commission that while we all recognize the need and the demand for soccer fields, and that we should look at every opportunity we have with any open space at the potential for soccer fields, that this particular project was not the appropriate place for a soccer field, and voted to stick with the original plan for the ARC park improvement projects. And then, as Mr. Balteri mentioned, we also received approval and then appropriation of funds to replace the play equipment at Glorietta Park, and that was long overdue as well. So those were three significant action items on the part of City Council.
Yes.
I have a quick question regarding soccer fields. Can people come over there and play soccer just like a pickup game, or it's not allowed at all?
It would be very restrictive. I don't want to say if you're a dad with your toddler and you're kicking around the soccer field in some small open area, it's probably not an issue. But if you come with a group of young adults or older youth and you try to organize a game, it would probably be an issue, because it's designed for passive recreation. It's designed to link to the brand to Brand Boulevard and the shoppers, the patrons using the library and the seniors, and so it's really not designed for for soccer play. But again, if you're a dad with your young toddler and you want to kick the ball around within a 10-foot square area, it's probably okay.
So no AYSO games?
No AYSO games.
Okay.
In that part.
Yeah, and I think at that council meeting I was there, that point came up that if there was a family there having a picnic and a couple people from the family wanted to kick the soccer ball around and have a little game among themselves, that would be perfectly all right. But it's not someplace where we would hope that people would not bring portable goals and set up a whole game. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, what is last?
Item 6, adjournment.
We are adjourned in record time.